What's up, y'all? It's your man DX. Know it's been a while, but I'm back. Today I want to talk about some of this weak beta male behavior that's going on out here. I'll be pointing out a few prime examples of this type of behavior, but more than that, I'll be giving my thoughts on what I believe are some of the main causes for this type of behavior. And I'm going to start off with the murder of Nipsey Hussle in Los Angeles and the weak beta male perpetrator of this crime. You might be a little bit surprised about what I have to say, but my take on it is authentic and it's different. I thought I'd just put my 2 cents out here. Basically, the bottom line here is that when something like this happens, you have to look at the perpetrators. And all too often in our culture right now, I'm talking about black culture, we have males, young black males, who act like females. To me, getting to the bottom of that means you have to discuss the feminine energy that has taken over in the black community. To the extent that we have a community, basically we have neighborhoods. And I've grown up in a few of these bad neighborhoods, so I feel like I have an authority to speak on this type of thing that a lot of these people on YouTube don't have. I grew up and was raised in some very, very rough, bad black neighborhoods. They were not communities. They were dog-eat-dog, wild, wild west, watch your back type of neighborhoods. So I'll get into all of that along with the so-called feminist movement and what it's done to the black neighborhoods. But we also need to take responsibility for a few things. There's a significant number of people in our neighborhoods who just ignore this type of criminal activity because they just don't want to get involved. There is also a certain percentage of people in our neighborhoods who cape for these thugs and hood rats, and some condone or even make excuses for their criminal behavior. That has to stop. In the 1970s, and then again, even in the 1990s, we had people in the neighborhood who called these gangbangers out, confronted them in the streets, even though it was dangerous, and let them know that no, we are not going to have this nonsense. Or at the very least, they let these miscreants know that they wouldn't be getting any support, moral or otherwise. So, we have to get back to that in a sense. I know times are more dangerous now. So, you go trying to confront somebody and you might end up dead. I understand that. But there's a way to combat this and confront this. Those in our neighborhoods, not communities, who are committing crimes, selling drugs, killing people, doing drive-bys, they jointly occupy a spot as our public enemy number one. It's as simple as that. Look, there are very real enemies who come at us from outside of our neighborhoods. That is a fact. I am fully aware of that. But there is also an enemy within our communities that we need to deal with, and we need to call out, and we need to get under control. The vast majority of people, of our black people who live in bad neighborhoods, are decent, sometimes hardworking, honorable people. But there is a 2 to 5% portion of those people who are out there doing the wrong thing, selling drugs to their own brothers and sisters, killing their own brothers and sisters. They just don't give a damn. We have to stop ignoring this. We have to go ahead and call these people out and deal with it. Okay? That's why a brother like Nipsey Hussle, and let's call him by his real name, because when you die, all of that rap stuff is over. So his name is Ermias Asgadam. So we'll call our brother Ermias. A brother like Ermias may not have been perfect, but he was trying to contribute back to his community where he came from, and that's the type of brothers that we need. By the way, to his brother Samuel and his children Cross and Imani and his woman Lauren London, and to his moms and the rest of his family, may peace and blessings be with you. Now, at this point, let's focus a little bit on the perpetrator of this crime, the murderer. When you talk about an individual like this, it's all too easy just to say, well, this is a corrupted person who doesn't have love for self and doesn't care about people who look like him. Well, that's way too easy. We don't do it like that around here. So what are we really talking about here? Well, I believe that when you have an individual like this Eric Holder, who authorities have arrested for this slaying of our brother Ermias, I believe what you're dealing with is a deeply rooted situation, upbringing, how they were raised at home, how they were indoctrinated into the concept of being a man. Now, look, to all the hardworking sisters out there who work hard to raise their children, care about their children, love their children, give them a nurturing environment, to all of you sisters who have gone your own way and done it your way and raised men who have become good men who go on to college and accomplish big things, I salute you. I'm not talking about you. Now, when you talk about these neighborhoods we have that are pretty much war zones, you have females in these neighborhoods who believe that they can raise young boys in this environment to be men, and they don't need a man to help them do that. Well, you're wrong. Because this perpetrator, Eric Holder, who assassinated our brother Ermias, he is a prime example of what happens when you have a lot of female energy raising a young black male child. So, without even knowing a whole lot about this guy, I can tell you probably what his background is. Black mother, no father around, and when that happens, he takes on the traits of being a female. What do I mean by that? Well, females and males in all cultures play separate and very specific roles. They complement each other because the deficiencies of one gender or sex are sort of compensated for by the better qualities of the other. So, by no means am I saying that all women have all deficiencies and all men are just great. What I'm saying is the deficiencies that the female gender has, the male gender is supposed to be there to fill in and complement, and vice versa. So when you have a young black male child who's raised by just a female, he takes on the traits of that female. What are these traits? Well, let's talk about the derogatory traits. Women are very catty. They're jealous of each other. They strike out. They are really into revenge. They don't take criticism from each other very well. So when you hand these traits down to a young black male, you're asking for trouble. Because what you have is a bunch of male children that are going to be grown males walking around with a lot of testosterone, and they have a lot of female traits. Female traits, the kind that I described, are very destructive. Because, ladies that are listening to me, imagine for just 1 second, if you had testosterone, you had the will and the strength to go do something to somebody, the aggressiveness of mind to go and do something to somebody. Imagine what you would have done to your girlfriends or other females that are not necessarily your girlfriends, who have talked bad to you, criticized you, disrespected you in your eyes. What would you have gone and done to them? So this is what I'm saying. Males who have this energy of being a female are very dangerous because they have the testosterone, they have the aggressiveness in their physical bodies, and they think like females. So this Eric Holder got his feelings hurt, and he's your classic, basic beta male. So what happens is these beta males, they confront or run into or encounter a male who has achieved some things, has come to some sort of enlightenment in their lives, and has achieved a whole lot in life and wants to help their community and spread this prosperity. And they get jealous, first of all. Then when they're rebuffed by these same males who have lots of achievements, they feel hurt. Their feelings are hurt. So what happened was, when our brother Nipsey Hussle, told Eric Holder that he didn't want him hanging around, he basically rebuffed him and told him, don't hang around my strip mall, don't hang around my store, because I know you're trouble. Number one, I think you might be a snitch. And two, you're selling dope. You have a bad energy. I can feel it, and I don't want you around. What happened was, this Eric Holder got all in his feelings like a female and decided to go and let his feelings take control of him and get a gun and come back and seek revenge. That is a male, not a man, a male walking around with female tendencies and female vindictiveness inside of him. Lastly, the most important aspect of this, and probably the most important trait that real men possess, is called self-control. Most men, real men in this society, know that there are consequences for their actions. If you go off your handle and you go and do what you can do to somebody, you will be heavily hated and shunned in this society. Not only that, when you go off the handle and go do something, because you're a male, you're often seen as the ultra aggressor, and you face very, very stiff penalties in this society. This is something that the modern female, including the black female, seems to not be worried with, because we have taught women, and black women in particular, that they don't have to pay any costs for their actions. So when you have a black beta male who's been raised by a female, he thinks like a female. In other words, he doesn't see that he will have to pay high cost as the penalties for his actions. What am I saying here? We have nearly a whole generation of black males, basically beta males like this Eric Holder, walking around in our neighborhoods, reacting off of their feelings and emotions, having no self-control, being catty, being vindictive, jealous, basically reacting off of their female indoctrination, who are going around committing crimes against other people because they have the testosterone in their system, They have the physical strength, the aggression in their minds, and they're going around doing these things without any kind of discipline. That is the main problem here, as I see it. So, let's talk a little bit about our bad neighborhoods. I know something about bad neighborhoods. See, a lot of these people talking on YouTube have never lived the game, but I have. I've lived the game, okay? Not only in my early 20s did I live in a bad neighborhood in Los Angeles, one of the worst neighborhoods in Los Angeles, but I also lived prior to that in my late teens in a neighborhood in Sacramento, California called Del Paso Heights, which is grimy, gritty neighborhood, almost like South Central. Okay, so I know something about neighborhoods. Okay? When I was in LA in my early 20s, I had a couple of years where I lived in near the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall. If anybody knows where that is on Martin Luther King Boulevard, you know that that's a rough neighborhood. So I know rough neighborhoods. Not only that, I'm going to tell you about a neighborhood I grew up in on the East Coast when I was little. Okay, before my parents split up. We lived down the street from a major street which was called The Block. That wasn't the actual name of it. It was just called The Block. Now, you know, when you're in a black neighborhood and you live right next to a major street which is called The Block, and that's a colloquial name for it, that you are in a bad neighborhood. They called it The Block because that's where people hung out. That's where people drank, did drugs, and whatever they were doing. And every single weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, you would hear gunfire during the night. Somebody was getting shot. Sunday morning, you would wake up and look at the news, and you would see somebody got shot right up the street from you and died. If you didn't wake up Sunday morning and hear anything that happened that weekend up the street from you, it was an anomaly. In other words, that wasn't the norm. The norm was you would wake up on Sunday or Monday morning and hear that 2 or 3 people got killed up the street from you. That's a bad neighborhood. Okay, so I know something about bad neighborhoods. Okay, so I'm telling you that in these bad neighborhoods, although most of the people who are in these neighborhoods are good people, like my parents, my dad wasn't out there slinging or selling drugs. He had a job, sometimes 2 jobs. My mother wasn't out there slinging or selling her ass or anything like that. She was a decent, respectable woman who, even when she left my dad, worked 2 and 3 jobs to support her children. So the biggest majority of people in these neighborhoods are good, hardworking people. It's that 5%, okay? It's those 5% that do all these things in the neighborhoods. And those are the ones we need to stop claiming. And so when I was growing up in this neighborhood, we couldn't even hardly walk home from the bus stop, okay, we had to hurry up and get home. That's how bad it was. So when we're talking about this, we need to get out of this mentality as black people that all black people are our family. They're not. Some of these people need to be excommunicated, expunged from the neighborhood, turned in, locked up. This is what we need to do to them. I mentioned at the beginning of this talk that this was going to be about female energy in the black neighborhood. Feminism did a number on our neighborhoods because it convinced the black woman that she could make it without a black man. The only problem is, even though that gave the black woman all the confidence she needed to go ahead and do what she had to do, work 2 or 3 jobs and all this other stuff, it also hurt the children, especially the boys, because a black young boy, especially in the United States of America, needs his black father to be there for him, to tell him about the things he's going to experience as a black man in this country, to guide him into manhood, to show him the right and the wrong things to do, just the way I've done with my sons. When you grow up without that father figure, and sisters, listen up, because I'm talking to you, all of you who raised children in the 80s, the early 80s and late 80s and early 90s, who thought you could do it by yourself. I respect you for being strong enough to raise your boys by yourself. However, the wages of this are disastrous for our communities. A man's thinking and mentality has always traditionally been different than a woman's thinking and mentality. Men, real men who think like men, although we're competitive, we don't get jealous of other men. We just go and try harder and try to do better than that other man. We don't hate. We don't do things to harm. And that's a traditional idea of a man. That's how you're supposed to be. But these males who were raised in the 1980s, early and late 80s, and the early 1990s, the biggest majority of them don't have that mentality. They have a female mentality. What do I mean by that? When it comes to jealousy, women are jealous of each other all the time. It's a jealous spirit, and that's a female trait. Not all females act on that jealousy, but some do. And what do they do? I've seen a lot of things in my life, and I have a lot of years of experience. I've seen females who react to that jealousy that they have by hating on the next woman, by setting that woman up to be fired from her job. I've seen this by doing things like trying to sleep with that woman's man. I've seen females who are jealous of a woman looking good or her hair is too cute, and she'll go up to the woman and be like, "Oh, that's a cute hairstyle you got. I love that," and be smiling in her face. And then the next time you see her, she's talking to another female, downing and disrespecting that original female whose hair she liked. And then she'll even try to do things to harm that female. I've seen young black females set another black female up because they don't like how cute she is, how light-skinned she is, how her hair is, her hairstyle. I've seen this. I've seen women set up other women to get beat down because they don't like something about that woman. That's a female mentality. Okay? And this is the type of male we have out here doing these things, like the beta male who murdered Nipsey Hussle. This is the mentality they have. They're jealous of a successful black man, so they have to go and harm him. That's bitch think. It's bitch think. There's no other way to say it. Then you also have people running around here like Jussie Smollett, okay? From all I can tell about this guy, he is biracial, of course. His mother is African American, and his dad is Jewish. I guess they mean white by that. There's not very much information on his home life, but they do say that his father, the white Jewish man, was absent from his life for a significant, quote unquote, portion of his childhood. I'm not surprised, because what Jussie Smollett exhibits is another trait of female mentality. What do I mean by that? Another trait that women have that men haven't traditionally had is the need for attention. Okay? We call it being an attention whore. Okay? Most of the men I grew up around, and I was in contact with some real men, like my uncles and friends of the family and people like that, real men. My dad, they never sought out attention. Okay? It's not a male trait to seek out attention because there's something missing inside of you. Okay, so Jussie Smollett primarily was raised by his black mother. I'm going to break this down tonight, so y'all just get comfortable, okay? When you're raised by just your mother, there are certain things your mother can't teach you. And in Jussie Smollett's case, what he didn't get taught is that you don't go seeking attention. Attention will come to you when you have done something of note. Not to say he hasn't been mildly successful. He's a singer, he's successful at that. And then he was on Empire, so as acting career, mildly successful. Not everybody would recognize him in public, but you don't at that point start seeking more attention. What you do is you work harder, and that's what a man would do. But if you have bitch think, like Jussie Smollett, the thing to do is do some kind of outrageous event to get some attention. And this is something that you're not taught. This is something you're taught to stay away from if you are raised by a male, especially a strong black male who is actually a man. Okay? So the stunt he pulled, trying to get more attention, is basically a female characteristic and a female move. Women do all kinds of things to get attention. In fact, most women thrive on validation, which is just attention and acknowledgement. Most women, they want you to say their hair looks good. They'll do all these outrageous things and wear all these outrageous colors of hair, so you will comment on it and give them validation. That's a female trait. It's bitch think. Okay? Straight up, it's bitch think. So, when you have people like Jussie Smollett, who already have a measure of success, but they're not satisfied with that, that's wanting more attention, wanting to be validated. So the fact that he didn't have a father in his life, basically, that's why he acts that way. And that's why he pulled the stunt that he did. Another female trait which should not be implanted into a male child is self-hate. Self-hate to the point that you don't recognize anything that looks like you as being worthy of praise. And you certainly don't see anyone who looks like you as being anyone that you should uplift. A lot of our females have this trait embedded into them as well. So we have another example when it comes to this rapper, Murder Mook. Okay? And let's call it by his real name, Jonathan Ankrum. Jonathan, Murder Mook, feels the need to exalt and praise white women. I have nothing against white women per se, but when you feel the need to uplift something or someone who looks the opposite of you, that means you have a certain amount of self-hate. Just call it what it is. He was raised primarily by females. And I knew that before I even looked up any information on this dude. How did I know that? Because of the traits he exhibits. And just as a side note, one little thing to me that doesn't add up about him, this dude got a reputation for being one of the dopest battle rappers ever, and one of the hardest freestyle rappers. That's cool, but the dude, from what they say about his upbringing, he primarily lived with his mother. And in 1996, he moved in with his aunt. So they never mentioned any kind of father in his life. So he didn't have his father. To quote Monty Woodgrain, he didn't have his father. And again, this is bitch think. And to reiterate, I'm not disrespecting any of my black sisters by calling you a bitch. What I'm saying is that in our black neighborhoods, they're not communities, but neighborhoods, there is a female energy that prevails. And this is why you have a murder mook who thinks it's okay to tell a white bread, culture vulture ass female that it's okay to say the word nigga. Not only that, but tells the same white female that she's not even white. Gives her a black card and says she's black because she claims to be Italian and Puerto Rican. Huh? And this is also why you have a Jussie Smollett who seeks attention and validation so intensely that he can't even think of a valid plan to get some publicity that won't end up getting him sent to jail and get him in trouble. He can't even think straight enough in order to do that. The jealousy, the self-hate, the envy, the wanting attention, all of that, all of those are female traits. So we have a serious problem that we have to address. We have a very serious problem, black people, in our neighborhoods. We have to come to terms with a few things. One of the things we have to come to terms with is that not only are our young black males corrupted, but most of our black females in our neighborhoods are corrupted and living lives that are not healthy and also not conducive to creating better circumstances for our children in our black neighborhoods. Decades of feminism has led our women to raise young black males as if they were females. This is the problem. So, hating, harming, backstabbing, and backbiting people of your own group, basically catfighting, and also seeking attention to the point where you would do anything or say anything in order to get validation and attention, basically attention whoring. And lastly, exalting and praising people of other cultures to the point where you actually wish that you were them, basically culture envy. These are all female modes of behavior. And yet, you see the majority of young black males walking around exhibiting this very same behavior. You don't have to be an authority in sociology or an expert psychoanalyst to know that there is something very wrong here. Well, family, that's it for me. And I hope you guys have enjoyed my verbal essay for today. Don't forget to smash that like button to show that you enjoy my content. Also, hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. If you see a bell down at the bottom of this video, a reminder bell, go ahead and click that so that you can be notified when I drop a new video. Also, go ahead and share this video across social media. And until next time, this is your man DX, and I am out.